I like to sketch out my projects before I start filling them in with oil pastel. And since we're doing a still life, I'm going to go ahead and do that first, very gently and lightly. I'm going to go through and sketch out the general outlines of where the color transitions are going to occur. You can do this ahead of time, or you can go through and you can freehand it as you work. Keep in mind, oil pastels do not come back up off the paper, so if you do make a mistake, you'll either have to figure out how to cover it or how to blend it into the rest of your artwork. As you're sketching, remember you want to keep things proportional to one another. So make sure that your paintbrush doesn't get too big compared to the paint palette, or that your tubes of paint aren't too small compared to your brushes or your palette. You always want to be referencing other items on the paper for placement. Where do things overlap? Where do they go under? Where do they go behind while you're sketching things out? This will help things to look more realistic. And to give you good ratios and proportions between the objects that you're sketching. Once I have those general spaces sketched out, I'm going to start going through with my oil pastels and layering things in. For this particular project, I'm going to use a lot of smooth oil pastel layering techniques. I'm going to go back and forth between my lightest colors and my darkest colors. Remember, if you are blending, you want to leave some open sections in there. You don't want to color really hard with your oil pastel right off the bat. You want to leave spaces for it to fit in there. And then you can also work your lighter colors into it to lighten it back up off your page. If you ever get a little too much on there, you can always scrape some back off and then you can keep working. Now, a lot of what you do is going to depend on how many colors you have in your oil pastel box. I happen to have a set of 82 different oil pastels, so I have a lot of color selections that I'm working with here. You may need to go back in and work a lot more white into some of your colors to get those pastels, or blending colors gently together to create a new one, and then your white into it, or a little bit more of the darker colors into it. Even a little bit of black once in a while, or a deep, deep gray to darken some of those areas up. Don't be afraid to really take a look at your still life. A lot of things that appear white or that are white typically will have a lot of shadows on them, or other little gray or really light blue areas in there. So very rarely are things bright, crispy white when you're working with a still life, so always pay attention to those. If you need a little help figuring it out, taking a photo of your still life can also help you work those different shadows and shades in there, along with some of your tints. As you're layering a lot of your different colors, you're also going to notice that you need to wipe off those oil pastels once in a while. Just keep a towel handy, like a paper towel or something a little rougher nearby. You can also scribble it off onto another sheet of paper. When you're working with your lighter colors, especially if they're picking up darker colors, you don't want to accidentally put those down someplace else next time where you don't want to see them. As you're working, if you're concerned about the side of your hand resting on your paper at all, you can always put a regular scratch sheet of paper in between your hand and the surfaces that you've already worked on to prevent it from picking up some of the other oil pastels that you've already layered down.